Craig here, guys. Welcome back. Here's the head, finished, sanded, put some Mr. Super Clear on it because we're going to have to add some color. So I'm going to be using some watercolor pencils and chalk pastels, because that's what I typically use for dolls. I believe in the book they used oil paints. I am not that confident. So basically just doing the typical face up. I was putting a little red there in the under eye part, and then I'm just doing a little bit of dark brown around the eye to give it some definition. If you make a mistake, you can take a Q-tip and wet it and it'll come right off, because the Mr. Super Clear is a very good base coat and it protects the underlying surface and also provides some grit. Here's my huge box of chalk pastels. So I have every color apparently. But yeah, I feel like this worked really well. I think oil paints, maybe if you weren't going to put a coating on top, but I plan to put Mr. Super Clear over the colors to protect it. So I think this, sometimes for me, the pastels and the watercolors just have a softer look, more natural look. I think all colors would look kind of harsh. So yeah, just personal preference really, and what I'm used to working with. I wasn't feeling the oil paint too much. So my typical face up, I use some pastel underneath the eyebrows, and then I go back over it and put the watercolor pencil marks to make it look like the little hairs. And then otherwise I'm just doing a little bit of shading here and there. And put a little shading around the nose and the nostrils. Here I'm using the watercolor pencil to put the strokes on the eyebrows to make it look like the hairs. I do put little tiny marks for eyelashes down on the bottom, but I am going to put some false eyelashes on this doll, so I'm not going to do that on the top of the eye. Putting a little bit of a blue color around the bridge of the nose for that shadow that's there, and then I put a little bit of pink over the eye, over the eyes for some shading there. And this is really just personal preference. My head that I put on it, with the magnets, has worked really, really well. I am going to put a little blush around that edge of that top part, just so it matches the bottom face, because that was a little bit darker and had a little bit of color to it. Might not show that much really under a wig, but just in case. So after putting a little Mr. Super Clear over the paint, I'm going to do a little bit of blushing on the body. Not a lot, because honestly, I'm not sure where this doll is going to ever be seen or not. But anyway, I'm just making a little bit of pink on the nipples. Nothing too dramatic. I don't want it to look weird. And then I'm going to do a little bit of blushing on the body. And that's just typical ball jointed doll type blushing. The abdomen and the navel, the buttocks, and it's just a really soft pink color, just to give it a little bit of a flesh look as opposed to just a flat look. It is a little more flesh colored than you can tell in the video. The video makes it look just white. I do blush the knees and the elbows, the feet and the hands a little bit. Just a very soft pink to give it a little bit of a flesh coating. And then you can put a coating of Mr. Super Clear over the pastels to keep it in place and protect the doll's skin. Although this GoFun is so hard that I don't think a nuclear war would hurt it. So anyway, yeah, Mr. Super Clear, good stuff. Now, eyeballs. We're going to glue some eyes in. I'm not going to use clay. Typically with a ball jointed doll, you use clay to put the eyes in so you can change them if you want to. But I'm not going to do that with this doll, because honestly, like I said, this is not a doll that's going to get like cherished and changed and redone. It's just, it was something to do for this project, because I don't think if I did another one it would look this bad. But anyway, I'm just going to use a little bit of my E6000 and just go ahead and glue these eyes in so they'll be in place. You know, I use this for just about everything. And all I did was just take a Q-tip, put some on it, and I didn't put a lot because I don't want it to squish out when I put the eye in, just enough to hold it. I can always go back in and put more later to really secure it. And then I just sort of balance the eye on my finger and press it against it. Try not to move it too much because it'll move the glue. It'll squish the glue out. And these are 8mm eyes, just in case you wanted to know. But basically you want to have something that fits the hole. And I did have to carve out a little bit on the back so it would fit up against the eye. And if you have any that does squish out, you can just take a toothpick and scrape it off real quick before it dries. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. And you just want to make sure you have the eyes pointed in the same direction and generally looking in the same gaze. So that's the face. So we're going to just lay her down and let those dry, not mess with them anymore, because, you know, this is my problem, is I mess with things too much and then I mess it up. So after they dried a little bit, I did put a little bit more glue, and then I realized, oh, I meant to put eyelashes on before I put the eyes in, but it's too late now. So I'm going to have to put the eyelashes on top of the eyelid instead of underneath the top eyelid, which is how I would normally do it. So I'm just taking a little bit of that wood glue, and I'm going to use these lash extension pieces instead of a whole one, because it's hard to put a curved eyelash on a doll this size. So I'm going to do it in 2 parts. And I'll put a little bit of glue on the doll's face, and then I'll put a little bit of glue on the bottom of the lash. Just let it get slightly tacky where it is not so liquidy, and then they tend to stick together pretty well and stay in position. Just like, actually, you know, when you put your own false eyelashes on, you kind of let the glue dry a little bit before you put them on. So this way they sort of stick together. Now I'm going to hold it for just a little bit, just to keep the eyelashes standing up straight. If not, if you let them go, they could just bend over, and then once they dry, then you can't get them to stand up in the right position. So I'm putting this on the outside of the eye, and then I'm going to put another little small piece of lash right beside it to go to the inner part of the eye. I will probably trim these, even though these are not very long lashes. These are, you know, for humans, but they're still pretty long for a doll. So I'm probably not going to keep them this length. They're a little bit too exaggerated. So once you do that, you want to let that dry, because if you mess with it late, you know, and try to put the other one on while this is still wet, you'll invariably knock it off. Or I would, anyway. So now I'm going to take a little bit shorter pair. These are all sort of graduated sizes. So I'm going to take a little bit of a shorter piece to put on the inner eye. And I'm going to cut this in half to get the right size. And then same procedure, just put a little bit of glue on the face and a little bit on the bottom of the lash. And then I had it upside down. Almost put the lashes curving down. So I had to turn it around. But this worked pretty well. I kind of like these little lash extension pieces. It makes it a whole lot easier than trying to use a whole piece, because the curve of these smaller dolls is too much for a whole piece to work properly without a lot of drama. So that actually ended up looking pretty well. Putting eyelashes on is probably one of the things I hate doing the most. But this went together well. It didn't look like 2 pieces. It looked like 1 piece. And I only had to move it just a tiny bit to make sure that the end looked like it was right along the lash line. So got that one on. We did the exact same thing to the other side. I didn't show that on the video. Now in the book it shows, for stringing to use this piece of wire, and they actually used stainless steel 18 gauge wire that they had used to make the S hooks for the feet and the hands, but I just used already made ones. So I'm just going to use this hemostat to help me with the stringing. Although, as I'll show you, that ended up not being what I needed. I'm going to use this keychain ring in the head to attach the end of the elastic to, because it's nice and strong and it's really all I have. A bigger S hook would be ideal, but I don't have one. So the book says to measure from the middle of the head to the knee for the elastic for the leg. You want it to, be stretchy, because it has to stretch to hold the parts together. So I measured that. Now, when I first did this, I made several mistakes, because it wasn't really mistakes, it's just that I wasn't aware that the knot that I tied in the elastic would not go through the holes in the arms and the legs. It just was not, the holes were not big enough. So I had initially tied the strings together and thought that I was going to be able to pull those through from the top of the head, from the neck down, but I wasn't able to do that. So what happened was I had to go back and recut the pieces and thread them through before I tied the knot. So I did cut a piece for the arms and basically went elbow to elbow for a piece, but as you can see here, I've already tied the knots for the legs, and it ended up not working. Also, you're gonna have to have a piece that you tie for the neck that's small, that the leg elastics attached to, because you can't run all of those up into the head. There's not enough room in the hole for that. So I'm doing the arm elastic now, and I just made that loop basically that would go elbow to elbow lengthwise, but doubled, and then I tied it. I just tied it with a square knot, pulled it really tight to make sure it wouldn't slip. If you've ever strung a ball jointed doll before, you probably are doing a better job than I am at this, but the other part of it is that probably the holes in my dolls are maybe not big enough, but I didn't know that, and it's too late now because they have GoFund on them, and the GoFund is not going anywhere. This elastic, I realized later, was not strong enough, but we'll talk about that later. So now I'm just going to cut a little small piece, a little circle. Now this is going to attach to the to that ring that's going to hold everything in place up in the head. And when I first did it, I actually had the strings that for the legs that had the knots in them, and I had tied that to this and thought that it would go through the hole in the neck, but it wouldn't. So I had to recut those pieces, string them through the neck without being tied together, and then pull them through the legs and tie them after they had come through the neck. So several little snafus in this project, but that's how we learn, right? And also I do this so you don't have to make the mistakes. So I was trying to do this so that there was less work, and that just didn't work out. So as you can see here, I pulled it through the neck, thinking that I would get the knots to pull through, but really what I measured the hole in the neck, well, really all the holes for in the joints, was just for the double piece of the elastic to go through, and that part will go through, but once it's tied in a knot, it's a lot thicker. So here I'm realizing, oh, I messed up. This is not going to work. And I'm trying to tell myself, oh, I can make it work, but no, I just cut all that part out. So with the magic of editing, you don't have to go through that with me. But as you can see, that hole in the neck is not that big. So I don't have that tool, that hook that the book talks about, because I didn't have strong enough wire to make it. If I had, that might have worked to pull some of these through, but you can buy those. I think they even have them on Amazon, just a long hook made out of a thin piece of wire, but strong enough that it would, pull without it going through. So here I've gone back, recut some pieces of elastic and run it through the down from the neck, through the legs, and now I'm going to tie a knot in it. And the other thing you want to do is, once you do this, is you want to pull those knots up into the body. You don't want to have those knots go down into the legs, because they would be stuck in the knee joints, and that would be a whole nother disaster. So once you get it, you just rotate it so that the knots are back up inside the body. Now for the arms, you just can pull that through with your hemostat or a piece of wire if you have it. Now the other part here was, I was thinking I could use the hemostat to reach up through the leg to pull the elastic down through, but that wasn't going to work because there wasn't enough room. So I had this really thin wire. So what we're going to do is sort of use this as a needle, well, sort of a long needle, to pull the elastic through. So I just doubled a piece of this thin wire, and also I realized that I was going to have to twist it together to get it to go through, because it's so thin. If you try to put it through two pieces, they just get caught up on the inside of the clay, because the clay is a little bit rough inside. So I tried putting it through without it, but you have to twist the end together and make it a little bit stiffer and straighter so that you can get it to go through the hole. So here's where I'm twisting the ends. We learn. We do learn. We are able to learn. We're not like rats. Oh, I guess we are like rats in a maze. Anyway, so just twist the end, make it a little bit stronger, and then it went through fine. So if you do this, you don't need the tool. And now you're going to pull this and hook the foot to it, which has the little S hook in it. Now here you do want to have something that's strong enough to hold it, and the hemostat works well for that. So you want to pull it through, and then you have the hemostat to hold the elastic, because you got a lot of pressure on that elastic, and it'll pull right back through sometimes if you're holding it with just your fingers. So now I'm going to pull the wire off and hook the foot on. And make sure you get the right foot on the right leg. I've done that before too. All right, so yeah, and look, the joint actually works for the knee. Now, I think I'm already realizing that this is probably not tight enough, but I decided to just go ahead and string it at this point, just so I could get it all put together and see how it worked. So I did the same procedure for the other leg, which went a little bit smoother because I knew what I was doing at that point. So I did go back and take the legs off and shorten the elastic a little bit, because it wasn't tight. It wasn't. It was too long, and it wasn't holding it together well. All right. So now we're going to be working on the arms, and this is the same procedure. You're going to attach that wire to one end and twist it to go through all the arm down to the hand. And I did stick one of those wooden skewers through the hole of the elastic on the other side of the arm, just so if while I was pulling it, I didn't pull the elastic all the way through. So want to think about that as you're doing it, because you do pull on the elastic a bit. So we that went pretty smoothly, the arm part, because that was just, going straight through the body instead of having to come down through the neck. And that's really it. That's how you string the doll. You can change out. Sometimes they'll come with extra hands and feet, so you can change those out because the S hook can be removed. But that's kind of it. That's our project. So recap now. Guys, I've finished stringing the doll, as you know. I wanted to just sort of do a recap at this point of where we are, what I thought worked or didn't work, and what I would change if I did differently. So the doll, I guess I would say, in terms of how this turned out engineering wise, I would probably give myself a B, because I mean, honestly, for my first try, everything is working. I mean, the joints are working, everything fit together. I think the shoulders probably could be a little more fitted against the body. So you see how that sort of still stands out. I think that could fit better. I think everything else seems to be working pretty well. The knee joints, they work. So I'm really happy with, I guess, for first time to do this and it being such a complicated project. I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I mean, it's not a beautiful doll, let's be honest. But I don't know. I guess what I would say is there are things I would do differently. Yeah. One of the things is that this elastic is not strong enough, so it's not holding the head up. This is also not holding the legs straight. So I have ordered some additional elastic that I think might be a little better. The Goffin was real interesting to work with. I think her head should be a little bigger. I don't know, maybe not. I mean, it looked okay on the graph paper. The arms are the right length, but they just look big for some reason. Maybe it's the shoulder. And maybe the shoulders could be a little broader. I don't know. These are just little things I'm noticing as an artist. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty proud that I finished this. I'm really kind of impressed that I did, because I was thinking it would turn out much worse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restring it once I get the other string, and I am going to make a wig for her. So I'll probably do a video about that, and I'll probably make her some clothes. Not sure if I'm going to do any more tweaking to the doll, but I mean, it was a huge project. It was something really new and using some really strange products that I've never used before and that aren't common in the United States. So, I guess overall I'd give it a B, maybe. Yeah, I mean, A for effort, B for technical, and maybe a C for beauty for actual, artistic content. But hey, we finished. She fit together. She moves. To me, that is pretty darn amazing. So I hope you all enjoyed this lengthy project with me and maybe learned some things. Maybe you want to try some Goffin, because that's pretty amazing stuff. I think I would like to do a stationary doll now that's not jointed, and use the Goffin, because I really like the surface that it provides. Anyway, that's it for the Japanese ball jointed doll project. Might do a wig for something, or come back a little later if I restring her and show you that. But getting ready to go on a trip out of the country. Actually going to go to Japan, so maybe I'll find out more about ball jointed dolls, or different dolls, or Goffin even when I get over there. So might even post some videos from Japan. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you subscribe, and look forward to some future projects and maybe some travel information. Thanks for watching, and I hope you like it. Goodbye.